Have you ever noticed how some people never post anything on social media? No photos, no stories, no status updates, nothing. They scroll quietly, maybe like a few posts, and disappear again into silence. In a world where everyone seems to share every detail of their lives, their absence stands out. You might wonder, are they shy, antisocial, or just not interested? But what if there's a deeper psychology behind their silence? What if not posting actually says more about confidence, peace, and maturity than constant updates ever could? We live in a time when people feel pressure to show their happiness, success, and beauty online. Every post becomes a performance, and every like feels like validation. Yet some people step back. They don't chase likes, they don't need attention, and they're not trying to prove anything. They've realized something powerful, that peace doesn't need an audience. For them, privacy is freedom. Their self-worth isn't tied to comments or shares, it comes from within. These quiet observers often have strong self-awareness, emotional control, and confidence that runs deep. In this video, we'll uncover the hidden psychology of those who stay silent on social media. The introverts, the thinkers, the mindful ones who choose real life over the digital stage. You might just discover that silence speaks louder than words. Why do some people choose not to post on social media at all? The answer isn't simple, because, human psychology rarely is. Some stay silent out of choice, while others out of fear. But behind that decision lies a fascinating pattern of thought, emotion, and self-perception. Social media has become a virtual stage where people perform daily, showing their meals, trips, selfies, and opinions. Every post gives a quick dose of dopamine, the same feel-good chemical our brain releases when we win or receive praise. Over time, this reward loop becomes addictive. People start measuring their worth in likes, comments, and followers. But those who step away from this pattern, those who don't post, are often the ones who've broken free from that invisible chain. They no longer seek validation through pixels on a screen. Instead, they find peace in knowing who they are without public approval. Many psychologists believe that people who post less tend to have higher self-regulation and inner confidence. They don't need to broadcast every moment to feel alive. Their sense of identity is stable, not dependent on others' reactions. These individuals often possess strong emotional intelligence. They know when to engage and when to pull back. They process emotions internally instead of seeking public sympathy. Their calmness comes from control, the ability to feel something deeply without needing the world to acknowledge it. This kind of self-restraint reflects maturity and awareness. For some, not posting comes from the desire for privacy. In an age where everyone shares everything, privacy becomes a luxury. People who stay silent on social media protect their personal world. They understand that the more you reveal, the more people form opinions, good or bad, about your life. And those opinions can quietly influence your mood, confidence, and peace. Choosing silence becomes an act of protection. These people don't hide because they're ashamed. They hide because they value calm over chaos. They've realized that not every beautiful moment needs to be uploaded and not every thought needs to be shared. Some experiences are meant to be lived, not displayed. However, not all silence comes from strength. For some, it's rooted in anxiety or fear. Many people feel judged online. They worry their posts will be misunderstood, criticized, or compared. The internet can be ruthless, and that fear of exposure can make people retreat completely. Their silence, in this case, is a shield against pain. They scroll quietly, observing, but never joining in. Psychologists call this protective withdrawal. It's not confidence, but self-preservation. Yet, even in this behavior, there's awareness. They understand that the digital crowd can be harsh and prefer to protect their mental well-being instead of risking rejection. Then there are introverts. For them, social media feels noisy, crowded, and overwhelming. Introverts don't get energy from public interaction. They get it from solitude and meaningful connections. So, it makes sense that they prefer small, private circles over public platforms. They might read, reflect, or observe, but rarely post. Their silence isn't loneliness. It's contentment. They don't need to announce their presence. They exist quietly, but fully. For introverts, not posting is a natural extension of their personality. It's how they preserve energy and peace. You know, people who don't post are often deep observers. They notice patterns, behaviors, and emotions that others might just miss. Because they're not busy performing, they can actually see how people behave online, the need for validation, the cycles of showing off, the subtle competition. Observers understand the game, but they choose not to play. This awareness often makes them wiser, calmer, and more grounded. They study human behavior not for judgment, but for understanding. Their silence is really a space for learning, not hiding. Many silent users have also experienced what psychologists call digital burnout. They once used to post, maybe even too often, but over time, the constant pressure to appear happy, beautiful, or successful just drained them. The endless scrolling and comparing, it made them feel empty. So they took a step back, and once they did, they realized something kind of powerful. Life doesn't lose meaning when you stop posting. In fact, it actually becomes richer. You start experiencing moments without needing to record them. Research shows that people who take breaks from social media often report lower stress and higher satisfaction. Without the constant noise of online validation, they reconnect with real-life emotions. For others, not posting is a spiritual decision. They've realized that the truest moments of joy, love, and gratitude are often private. They see posting as an interruption to presence. Instead of capturing the sunset, they watch it. Instead of filming a dinner, they savor it. Their silence is mindfulness, a connection with reality rather than a performance for an audience. This reflects a higher level of consciousness where happiness is internal, not performative. There's also the psychology of mystery. People who post little or nothing often appear intriguing. Others wonder about them, what they do, how they live, what they're thinking. But that mystery isn't manipulation, it's power. By sharing less, they maintain control over their narrative. They don't let others define them based on fragments. This kind of selective visibility is a boundary, a sign of independence and self-respect. The less you reveal, the more you own your story. Another factor is time and priorities. Many who don't post are simply busy living. They're building careers, nurturing families, or exploring real experiences. They don't feel the urge to document everything because their satisfaction comes from doing, not showing. Psychologists describe this as intrinsic motivation, acting from internal satisfaction rather than external approval. In contrast, those who constantly post are often driven by extrinsic motivation, the need for recognition or feedback. The difference is subtle but powerful. Those who act from within stay emotionally stable because their happiness isn't tied to other people's reactions. Yet, silence isn't always peaceful. Some people stop posting because they feel disconnected, unseen, or invisible. They might want to share but feel no one cares. This form of silence can come from low self-esteem or emotional exhaustion. They retreat not because they're strong, but because they're tired. It's important to distinguish between silence that heals and silence that hurts. Awareness is the key. If someone avoids posting out of fear, shame, or sadness, they might need support or connection. But if they stay silent out of contentment, that's a form of strength. In the end, people who don't post on social media represent many types: introverts, observers, healers, thinkers, and sometimes the quietly confident. Their absence from the digital crowd doesn't mean emptiness, it often means depth. In a world that rewards noise, they choose stillness. And that stillness gives them something precious: clarity. They understand that life is not a performance and meaning doesn't depend on an audience. They live for themselves, not for likes. Their silence isn't a lack of voice. It's a deliberate choice to listen more, speak less, and live fully. In a culture obsessed with exposure, their privacy becomes a silent rebellion, and perhaps the purest form of freedom. So, what can we learn from people who don't post on social media? Their silence carries lessons that many of us have forgotten in this noisy digital age. They remind us that validation doesn't define value. Just because your life isn't on display doesn't mean it lacks meaning. Happiness, love, and peace don't need witnesses. The constant sharing culture has made many of us believe that moments are only real when others see them, but the quiet ones prove otherwise. They show us that the most beautiful things in life often happen off camera. When you stop posting, you start living. You experience the world without filters, without worrying about angles or captions. You become more present. And in that presence, you rediscover the simplicity of being human. Silence online also teaches emotional strength. It takes courage to exist quietly in a world that rewards performance. People who don't post have learned to draw satisfaction from within. They don't need digital applause to feel relevant. Their confidence comes from their character, not their content. They've escaped the endless loop of comparing themselves to others and found peace in their own lane. That's real freedom, the kind that doesn't depend on Wi-Fi signals or notifications. By choosing not to share everything, they protect their energy. Every post invites opinions, and not all of them are kind. Silence, therefore, becomes a shield, not of fear, but of power. If you're someone who rarely posts, understand that your quietness is not a weakness. It's a choice, one that reflects awareness and control. You don't have to announce every success or struggle. You don't have to prove your worth to strangers online. True confidence is calm, true happiness is private, and true peace doesn't crave attention. Maybe you prefer deep conversations over comments or real hugs over emojis. That doesn't make you outdated, it makes you authentic. The digital world thrives on noise, but real life thrives on connection. And that connection begins when you put the phone down and look up. So next time you come across someone who never posts, don't assume they're disconnected or dull. Maybe they're the ones most connected to nature, to their emotions, to the people who truly matter. Maybe they're the ones who've realized that silence isn't emptiness. It's fullness, lived quietly. Because in the end, the loudest people online often crave attention, but the quietest ones already have what everyone's searching for: inner peace.